Could the Los Angeles Clippers be looking to trade Paul George? We're going to break that down on today's show as Brian Windhorst of ESPN is reporting that Paul George and the Clippers are not on the same page when it comes to a potential contract extension. Before I give you my thoughts and ideas on PG being a New York Knick, I want to hear from you in the comments section. Do you want Paul George on the New York Knicks? If it meant you got to keep Randall, keep that in mind. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Welcome into Knicks Now by Chat Sports. I am Marshall Green. Let's talk about it. First off, Paul George is always going to be a trade target for the New York Knicks because he is blooded in. He is a part of the CAA Mafia. And if you're represented by CAA, you are going to be a player of interest for Leon Rose, Worldwide West, and the New York Knicks. First and foremost, when it comes to Paul George, I think when you strictly talk on the hardwood, the fit, what the product would look like if you had a starting lineup of Brunson, Paul George, OG Anunoby, Julius Randle, and Isaiah Hartenstein, Paul George is almost an ideal fit when it comes to roster construction-wise and just flow and being able to mesh with his teammates. He's 6'9". He can defend ones, twos, threes, and some fours. He will take a step back and let other players be the star of the show. We saw that when he was a part of the Oklahoma City Thunder, playing alongside Russell Westbrook. We've seen that with the Los Angeles Clippers, playing alongside Kawhi Leonard, even James Harden, and to somewhat of a degree of Russell Westbrook. And the guy, last year, had one of his better seasons of his career. He played in 74 games. He missed just 8 regular season games. So has he shook that injury-rattled bug that a lot of people connect with his name? Gave you over 22 points last year, giving you 5 rebounds. He could dish it almost like a point guard at times at 3.5 assists. And he was efficient, man. 47+% from the deck and north of 41% from threes. And when you go even deeper into the numbers, you see things that stand out that I think would be major additions to this roster. When you talk about what the Knicks need, it's another guy that can spot up on the perimeter and knock down catch and shoot threes with Brunson and Randle demanding double teams. Paul George does that at one of the better clips in the NBA. He knocks down catch and shoot threes at 45.4% on 4.5 attempts per game. And then when the shot clock's going down or coming off a pick and roll, he can get to a spot and rise up and create a quality look from distance. On pull-up threes, he's knocking it down on almost 36%. He could still get downhill and operate in that mid-range game. He's got that nice smooth step back. He's knocking his pull-up twos down at 45%. He's still really good at attacking the rim, converting at almost a 58% clip on less than 10 feet from the basket, and he is still one of the better defenders in this league. He averaged this year 3 deflections per game. That was tied for 6th across all of the players in the NBA. And I truly do believe that if injuries are off and that if everybody is healthy, and your top 7 players include Jalen Brunson, Paul George, OG Anunoby, Julius Randle, Isaiah Hartenstein, with Dante DiVincenzo and Josh Hart coming off the bench. If that is your top 7, you are contenders to win not one, but maybe a couple of NBA finals. And we know the New York Knicks have at least had somewhat of a little bit of interest in Paul George. Remember last year, the New York Knicks made offers for Paul George. Remember this quote from Alan Hahn, what he said on Get Up on ESPN last year? This quote is from last year. They had a chance to get Paul George. They said it was too expensive. They don't want to do it. They've already backed out of that. They talked to the Clippers. The Clippers gave what it would cost. Then Paul George said, but I want an extension. And then they said, we're not doing that. And they walked away. So Paul George, as far as now goes, it's off the table. And that's why I just want to get it out there. I'm not sure how realistic that it is now for the New York Knicks to trade for Paul George. And there are multiple reasons why. Fred Katz of The Athletic says this: the Knicks have kicked George's name around before, according to league sources, but they never seriously pursued him in a deal. Why? Because a Paul George trade has some major risk. All of the things I said before make him an attractive trade target for me. He can defend, he can handle, he can score, and he's one of the better catch and shoot players in this league. And he's still damn good. But on the opposite side of the spectrum, he's looking for a max extension. He wants to get paid one more time before he hangs up the sneaks. And he's 34 years old. Like, Father Time at some point is going to win. And there's been a little bit of decrease of athleticism and things of that nature. I still think he's a good player, and I still think he has a couple good years in front of him. But is he going to continue to be an all-world defender at 36, at 37? On top of that, outside of this year, he hasn't been able to stay healthy. He averaged just 47 games played from the 2019 season to the 2022 season. So from 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022, in those 4 seasons prior to this year when he played 74 games, he averaged just 47 games played. And the thing that upsets me the most with him, this felt like the postseason where he could put all that playoff P nonsense to bed, where he could have stepped up to the plate and hit a dinger like my guy Mike G. But he didn't. Kawhi Leonard was hurt. The Clippers looked at him and said, "Yo, Paul George, we need you." And he said, "All right, I got you 19 points per game on 41% from the field." Not good enough. What does that tell me? He can't be a 1A option anymore. But what if he's your 3rd best player? Or what if he's your 4th best player? Could that make some sense? I think it does. But overall, it is just not feasible, really, for the New York Knicks to trade for Paul George. Fred Katz of The Athletic did a great job of breaking it down, saying because the Clippers are so expensive and above the second apron, new rules prevent them from signing and trading him. New York's only avenue to acquiring George would be for him to opt in to his $48.8 million player option for 2024 and 2025, then have the Clippers work out a trade. Look, if the Knicks can trade for Paul George without giving up any of the core 6, they would win an NBA championship. I truly do believe that. If you could find a way to not include Brunson or Randall or Hartenstein or OG or Dante or Josh Hart, you got a legit shot to do it. But at the end of the day, it's got to be possible. And it's got to be realistic. And I just don't see how that's possible for the multiple reasons that we brought up. And I think that I hope that this puts a bow and just an answer for you out there of how detrimental being a second apron team is when it comes to long-term team building. I hope this puts that on your radar. I think the Knicks, if everybody's healthy, could win a championship with Paul George. I don't see the trade happening. So there's that on that, because you always ask me. Everyone watching always ask me, Marsh, what about PG? What about PG? Well, that's what Windhorst said, and that's what I had to say. Make sure you are following me on social media. We could talk more about it. Hit me up at @MarshallGreen_.